Game 5. Blues win this one 2-1 against the Boston Bruins. So some notes going into this game. Chara, of course, had his jaw shattered in the last one, blocking a Schenn shot. I think his jaw might be wired, but he's playing, which is the surprising thing. Now, because of this, Boston's going with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. Kampfer is in on D as a 7th defenseman, and Backus is out as the forward there. Now, basically, the empty spot is on the Bruins' second line, which is filled in by Pastrnak, who's playing the first and second, so he gets some more ice time. And statistically speaking, when two teams are going into the Stanley Cup final tied 2-2, 70% of the time, the team who wins Game 5 ends up winning the series. Some good news for Blues fans, bad for Bruins. Now, interesting note about Chara, that he has this, this mouth guard on, kind of like similar to Derek Stepan had, who was the first one to break his jaw during the playoffs. But this one didn't look so Autobot on his face. It looked a little bit nicer. But there was no visor on it, which I found somewhat strange that the league let him do that. But I guess it has to do with his breathing, having very little movement in his mouth. It would probably just be a lack of oxygen. The guy might even pass out during the game. Who knows? But that's how he played, without the visor, but with the whole jaw contraption there. A little note here, because it's more important later on in the game. Sanford for the Blues, of course, is staying in. He's playing this game, which I want to say is his 4th or so in the series. And Fabry is out in his stead. Sanford playing a lot with Riley. They played about, I want to say, anywhere around 10 games during the regular season, so there is some familiarity there. Let's get into the first period here. Now, first 5 minutes, there's lots of hits and chances going both ways. Chara goes for a hit on Schenn. Schenn kind of sees him, backs into it. Chara's mask slightly gets bumped. He goes down. Everyone is like, oh, is he okay? He gets up. Everything's fine. Thank God. He's kind of used sparingly since. Been used sparingly since throughout the rest of the game, but that's to be expected. Now, the Bruins get a power play with 13 minutes, around 13-minute mark. Vince Dunn of the Blues sends it over the glass for a delay of game penalty, but the Blues kill it. So I want to say it was Game 3 where Boston went 4 for 4 on 4 shots on the power play, and then last game, Blues seemed to figure that out and only allow was it just one power play goal, but this gets more important later on in the game as well. Now there's 7 minutes left, and the Bruins are out shooting the Blues 13-3. But remember, part of that is because of the power play. But still, Bruins are getting just much more quality chances, especially that first and second line. The second line, of course, being Krejci, DeBrusk, and Pastrnak. But Binnignton is he's solid. He's at the top of the blue paint. He's aggressive. He looks really good in this game. And you remember, with each of these series the Blues have been in, the further they get into the series, the better Binnignton just seems to play. So the cyborg that he is. Now, or is that Chara's nickname? In any case, the Bruins get a penalty around the 2:43 mark. Marchand gets this one for slashing on Binnignton. Seems like a little bit of a weak call there. I don't know. The puck goes into Binnington's pads. Marchand sticks a stick in there. Do you really call that in the playoffs? In any case, going into that, penalty kill, Boston has killed 23 of their last 24. It ends up being 24 of their last 25. There was one opportunity, especially where O'Reilly went east-west to, was it Perron or Schenn? I can't remember, who one-times it, and Rask just makes a huge, amazing save on that. And then, the period is over. But I get this feeling, I oddly get this strange feeling that the Blues won that period, even though they were outplayed for most of it, just because they kept it 0-0. They kept the Bruins from scoring. The shots in that first, and this helps that perspective, were 17-8 for the Bruins in that one. Now we go in the first intermission. I'm watching Sportsnet. Don Cherry, Ron McLean are talking. Just talk about how great Binnignton is doing and how Bruins are continuing to block a lot of shots, especially in that first. Now, second period, Blues come out really hard. Rask makes some great saves right up until the 19-minute mark, and you can't blame this one on him. St. Louis scores 1-0. This is Sanford. Remember him? Just makes this beautiful behind-the-back pass between his legs when he's behind the net, out to O'Reilly, high in the slot, who goes forehand, backhand, and in. I'm not sure any goalie could really save that. It goes up high into the corner. 1-0 game. And Riley as well is now later on we're 17-20 mark in this game, and Riley's 7-1 in the face-off circle. So he's definitely having a good game. Now later on, there's a questionable hit from Sanford on Krug. Krug's head kind of whips around on this one, and I mean, it doesn't necessarily look malicious, but kind of looks questionable. One of those things you got to watch. You got to reach the replay over and over again. But I don't think. I mean, and they talk about this in the intermission, but it's. I mean, Krug's 5'9", and Sanford's like 6'4". So I think the refs did the right thing by not calling this, because he kind of hits his head and his chest at the same time. It's just a size issue. Now. St. Louis takes another penalty around the 10:35 mark. Perron gets it for interference, but they kill it. They kill another Boston power play, and towards the end of this PP, Boston fans are getting on the Bruins' case. They're booing, they're upset, and because they expect perfection from this power play. This game 3, 4-for-4 power play. Now, but besides the special teams, the Bruins are getting the most chances. They continue to do that in the second. And then something weird happened in the second half of the second period. During the play, you hear a whistle, but the play doesn't stop. And even the commentators mentioned it. And then, after the play did stop, you hear the whistle again. So you're thinking someone in the crowd may have it. If you happen to be at that game, or maybe if you're watching it on BC, let me know in the comment section if you heard it, or I don't know what that was about. If they found someone, kicked them out, maybe. I don't know. It's easy, to sneak a whistle in there. It's funny you don't hear more of that during games, during any games, really, because all the refs use whistles. Now, with 3 minutes left in the game, they pan the camera to Chara, who's on the bench, and he's just breathing. He's breathing heavy. He's sucking wind, and why wouldn't he be with his with his mouth probably somewhat wired shut at this point, and his energy level being questionable, because it's now although he's had 3 days since he got hit with that puck, which deflected off his stick from a Shen shot into his face to shatter his jaw. He's doing well. I mean, you're basically eating liquids, drinking liquids, that whole time. So we'll see what he's like in the next game. It'll be interesting in Game 6 to see how he's faring, because still just liquids, no solid food. So in any case, with St. Louis with about with seconds left in the second here, they get a wide open net. Krejci makes a diving save to keep them in it. You think, this could be, maybe that's a turning point for Boston. The shots in the second period were 8-6 for the Bruins. We go into the second intermission. There's the whole Sportsnet panel, and they talk about Sanford, about the Sanford Krug hit, about them being, big height difference, how they don't think it was a malicious hit either. And McLean mentions how it was ironic. Sanford happens to be from Salem, Massachusetts, and he grew up a Boston Bruins fan. And how he's only played 3 playoff games going into the Bruins series. And they also mention how the Bruins should quit playing victim and looking for penalties. Kiprios mentions this because Krug gives the referee a hard look after that Sanford hit. I think some other Boston Bruin players went to talk to the ref afterwards, so that's what that was about. They mentioned how good Binnignton is, and of course how he just gets better and better into the playoffs. Peryanko was mentioned, a kind of a quiet, great game that he's having. Although he's a really big guy, was he 6'5"-ish? He doesn't check a lot, but he uses his stick really well. A lot of great stick checking. And his gap control is terrific. They mentioned Chara, how he's on pace for about 18 minutes for the game, and how his longest shift was about $1.19. Now, third period now, 3 minutes in, and O'Reilly's now 17-3 in the face-off circle. Unbelievable. He's a beast in there. And but the Bruins, that's a mix between Boston and the Blues. The Bruins gets another power play. Steen goes off for interference on Krejci, and it gets killed again. The Bruins are now 0 for 3. This unbelievable power play is all of a sudden stifled. And then 7 minutes in, Boston, even though they failed power play or not, they're just coming after St. Louis. So it's more of the same throughout this entire game. The ice is really tilted. And then St. Louis gets a break. Here's the juicy controversy. At around 10:36, Blues go up 10-0. Now, just before the goal is scored, Bozak looks like he might be going after a puck, but he just takes out the back of Achari's legs like he was chopping wood. It's like Achari wasn't even standing there and Bozak was going for a puck. That's what it kind of looked like. And Achari fell like a ton of bricks backwards, hit his head on the ice. No call. Play keeps on going. Perron gets a hold of it, comes around the other side, high in the slot, sees Bozak on the other side, goes for a pass. It goes off Krug, who's trying to block the shot, goes immediately back to Perron, who shoots it right away in a matter of milliseconds, catches Rask going side to side, bounces off in between his pads in it. Hard to blame Rask on that one. It was a great goal, but that definitely should have been called dead. It should have been a power play, another power play for Boston. But you can't help, at this point, I couldn't help thinking or remembering about Game 3, San Jose, St. Louis, that overtime, Carlson, that old hand pass to Carlson, who then puts it in for the overtime goal. The Blues catch a bad break on that day, and Berube tells his players, tells the media, we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to move on to the next game. It's spilt milk now. There's nothing we can do. Maybe that's the same attitude Boston's got to have, going into this next game now, because that's it. St. Louis now has 3 games. They could win the cup back in St. Louis. I'm sure Blues fans are really stoked about that. But we're not done here. Chari, of course, goes in the concussion protocol. He leaves the bench. And we'll get back to him in a bit. But you start to notice how Boston, and the commentators mention this as well, how they're not taking as many shots as they should in prime, with prime opportunities, especially Marchand and Pasternak. And then, bam! As soon as they say that, of course, something happens. Boston scores around the 13:34 mark. It's now 2-1 Bruins. That's a goal by Jake DeBrusk, his 4th of the playoffs, assisted by Torrey Krug. I'm going to digress here for a second because I completely forgot to read the other goals. That first goal by St. Louis, by the way, in the second period was O'Reilly's 6th. That was assisted by Sanford and Pietrangelo. That goal by Perron, which I just mentioned, was his 7th of the playoffs, and that was assisted by O'Reilly, his 2nd point, and Tyler Bozak, who should have had that penalty. In any case, back to this Bruins goal, which was assisted by Torrey Krug, scored by DeBrusk. This was Krug's going to get paid when his contract talks come up. This guy just offensively, he's just unbelievable. He takes a high stick right along the offensive blue line, and the referee's hands go up for a penalty, but he recovers, finds the puck right after he takes the high stick, gets it, sees DeBrusque on the other side of the ice, gets it to him, who one times it past Binnignton, who he catches him moving laterally, barely gets both between his under his arm and in, and it's a 2-1 game, and the crowd gets back into it, and we're saying there's a chance. With about 3:34 left in the game, Chara gets back on the bench. He seems to be okay. Around a minute left, Bruins pull Rask. They put a lot of shots on net, but St. Louis defensemen, players are just going down like fallen trees, blocking shots everywhere. They actually almost score in the empty netter, but for the most part, it continues to be all Bruins, and that's the game. It's Bruins outshoot the Blues in that period 14-7. Wow. 39-21 in the game. And the Blues didn't even get 20 shots in the third period. That's crazy. So the Blues are up 3-2 now in the series. The game 6, as I said, going to be in St. Louis on Sunday, by the way. They could win the cup at home. This is just, wow, shocking. I would love to hear what you have to say about the Sanford Krug hit. I would love to hear what you have to say about the missed penalty call on Bozak there. What you think he might have been doing when because he just chopped his legs down. I don't know. If you like this video, please hit that like button. If you really liked it, smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. And hey, if you happen to have any hockey geek friends, please don't feel shy about sharing. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.